Chapter 1. What is the poppy? How does it work, and where does it come from? It was a flower in the middle of the field, blowing in the wind. It was much larger and much more vibrant than any other flower could compare. It could talk to your thoughts, but not to you. Everybody thought it was a dopamine rush and some kind of pleasure that would help someone release from their stress, but instead it was poison, and it was slowly gaslighting its own civilization into believing it was self-destructive. Mothers burnt their daughters, fathers poisoned their sons. The sexes were switching, and the languages they were using were breaking one another down until they all were miserable and submissive to the plant. But the plant didn't survive winter, and so the people decided they no longer wanted to exist in this lifetime where the great poppy would not be breathing with them. It regrew its stems and sprouted out from the depths. It was more demonic, more possessive, aggressive, and dominating than before. It had thorns, teeth, and fingers sticking out from underneath its leaves, trying to make itself more human than it would ever be. But it didn't last long before someone chopped it down with an axe and collected the head. He liked collecting a lot of things. He was never one for hiding from the unnatural, the weird, the awkward, or even the evil. He didn't do it for personal pride or something as simple as collecting these things. He did it because he just didn't care. It just happened to happen upon his life and changed him forever, because the promise was if he kept working, then it would stop him from thinking. Stop him from thinking about his parents, his siblings, and his dead rivals that never died in the first place. It stopped him from blaming himself for something as weird as a bunch of missing people ending up in the same pit, falling to your death with all your family and friends. Sounds horrifying, but to me it was peaceful. The thing that ripped the joy out of my chest was the fact that he never came back for me. I guess no man gets born with the thought that he'll become a father at the young age of whatever he was, but what was I supposed to do? Of course I was born after the poppy got hacked to bits. You're probably wondering how I still remember that. It feels like I wasn't really part of that life. But it would have been my religion as well if I hadn't been able to be separated from them. In school, they teach you how to dissect, how to build a bomb, how to hate your enemies, and they teach you that no matter how many times people keep telling you they'll always be there, as they say, money buys the whiskey. You're probably wondering what that means as well. Well, I don't actually know, except for when someone told me it meant I had horrible friends and that all the words in the world weren't worth the solitary confinement they were putting me in. Keith, that boy was so cute and handsome and sweet until his words fell as flat as his empty promises. Mary, so lovely, attractive, and a sports fanatic who jumped her career about as far as she could spread those elastic legs. Jaiden, hunkadory and funny, always there to cheer me up until I got taught in psychology what gaslighting means. Tessa, skanky, rich, and spoiled, about as real as the bullshit on your porch when you start smelling a rat. Hayward, whatever happened to him, who knows? I liked him, but he left easily too. Jumped off the school roof. Why? I guess his journal said enough when I stole it from the police station. But I won't miss him. Of course college would have wrapped around the corner. Wrapped? Maybe not. Until that precious little poppy booped her head out of the dirt and sent all the students flocking around her like the most incredible thing they've ever seen. Sitting here on the pavement while staring at a bunch of students looking at a picture on the middle one's phone that she took of that abomination. I guess smoking doesn't really do anything, but it does distract me. I take it up to my lips, and guess what? It tastes like mint. The aftertaste is nicotine surfing in between the gap in my teeth. I hate when my tongue swells up every time I accidentally bite it. These teeth are sharp after all, but not as sharp as the thorns on those petals. What kind of a poppy has thorns on those pretty red flowers of hers? Little skanky plant she is, but she's not stupid. Aroma is the key. You keep your lighter close enough and you can set anything on fire just to get rid of that smell. You set precious little poppy on fire and you just might end the world. As much as that aroma and scent can cleanse your body, like you don't even need to use your Holy Spirit, it spits that feeling back out into venom, which swells your heart up with the illusion of glee, when in reality, it's filling you up with hate, that toxicity of life's ups and downs. The street is now getting a little crowded for my taste, so I kill the cigarette on the tar street and realize I have tar in my lungs, but who cares? I'll die alone anyway, might as well shorten the misery. My walk home is pretty simple, looking down at my school shirt and my Converses, the strings of my sweatshirt, one string dangling lower than the other, and this heavy backpack. I like how it feels, like my spine just might bend the wrong way backwards if I lower my bag too close to my ankles, 'cause I just can't seem to stop stretching. The light of the sun was cooking the top of my head, which is weird to say the least since I've got red hair. Casa is now behind me, considering I can see her goth boots from the corner of my eye in the reflection of one of the many second-hand shops this stupid street's built on. Sorry, I didn't mean stupid. I'm just really negative and pessimistic because something inside of me crawled in a corner and almost died. Almost, but not entirely. But then Casa, you sweet idiot, flicking a pocket knife out of your back pocket like you're gonna get me this time. I squeezed my fists together, feeling the pollen in my hands. I let a smile creep across my face, biting down on my lower lip with these jagged bruises I've been blessed with from my parents. I whip around and blow the pollen into her face as she stands 3 feet away from my backside, ready to swing that shiny blade into my neck. The yellow dust not only enters her lungs, but it kisses her eyes. Her sweet sclera, which consisted of whitewash bleach, was now covered in a pink shade, as if I kissed her bare eyeball with my beautiful scent. She doubled back with so many giggles that it welled inside my heart with pride. Approaching her felt a little raw to the stomach since I had something in there that shouldn't have been there in the first place. I was going to throw up, but I had Casa look at me with tears running down her cheeks. The beautiful goth look was only pretty if you look like an alcoholic's daughter, so now she was perfect. She dropped to her knees and clawed her hand over her face. Screaming through her throat, I heard some of the other kids approaching, and that was my cue to readjust my bag and skip on back home. Home was an apartment located in the corner of the street, infested with rats, mold, ghosts, and busted pipes. Possibly. I loved this place more than the rest of these miserable slush puppies. My roomie, there he is as I throw the door open, watering my favorite sunflower. I even call him that, my little cactus. He's got that green hair, those speckles on his cheeks, and he's particularly glued to the watering can. Don't you just find this boy to be the most beautiful soul in the world? He stared back at me with those sluggish eyes, the poor baby boy. Such a cutie pie, I kept my distance with a little blush. At the sight of my cactus, the sunflower sitting right in front of the window had started producing a radiant yellow that sparkled in my eyes every time I took one little peek at it. He is taking such good care of a plant so simple, and I was taking such good care of him. I drop my bag down on the couch before he turns around and looks like he didn't just see me walk in through the door. "Eater, you want some tea?" "You sweet fool, you don't even know the gist of it." "Emerald, not today. I'm feeling kind of tired." Eater puts the watering can down, but not because he wants to comfort me. He's headed for the kitchen to make his own cup. It's not selfish. It's pretty normal behavior. I just wish he were a little more receptive to my presence. But that's quite all right. He's very antisocial, barely has any friends, and almost never talks to me. Want to know why? The poor thing went missing for several years. One would wonder, "Where'd you go, Eater?" Would he answer you? No. Would he go back to the second he got the offer? Probably. It's depressing when you think about how many lives were shaken in the course of just 2 weeks. That's what Poppy does best. Her poison spreads like wildfire, and her voice starts to cave into your mind, gaslighting you into her mannerisms so she can justify her horrible existence by making you just as blood-covered in her cruel actions. Then she has the nerve to blame you. How would I know? I wasn't here when she spread the worst of her destruction. I was born out of that bitch when the seeds splat across the ground. I remember eyeing the person as he swung the head of the dead flower over his shoulder, the look in his eye like he didn't expect Poppy to have any proper offspring. I should just be grateful that he left me alive, but part of me wanted to tag his ankle so he'd stay with me a little while longer. That lingering eye contact being the only beautiful memory that ever consisted in this near-empty headspace of mine. I do consider myself the ignorance of stupidity. Other than the time I met Eater, standing by the front door holding a pot as a welcoming gift, only to realize in a miserable sense that neither of us knew how to cook. so we put it on display as a reminder that neither of us have the ability to make the first move. Ah well, enough thinking. I hear the kettle boiling, the water before the click of its knob, or whatever one would call that. Turning over my shoulder, I just remembered. I never gave you any context to what happened between me and Casa. Chapter 2. Stings Like a Cactus. It's an awkward relationship and a cold-hearted one. Staring back at Casa is like looking at a coffin with a mannequin of Dracula resting inside. She's half vampiric. If it weren't for her sociopathic mother, her psychopathic father at least does what he does for the purpose of free juice boxes. I met her at the cafeteria, leaning against the doorway, shoving her hands inside of her pockets as the boys were making remarks at her beautiful triangular socks. I don't know what a slut or a cultural whore is, but I welcomed her into my arms by stretching them out when I introduced myself. So excited, I felt my dead heart no longer shriveling, but passively introducing the life of affectionate luxury, with hugs and kisses of the best kind. Emerald. Hello there, my name is Emerald. What is yours? I can tell you are a very special and really interesting person. How do you feel about anticlimactic events? How about shoes that are too thick for our feet to process? Do you think of animals, love, or drugs? Casa looked at me as though my madness had reached the peak of her sanity. She stared at me with those golden eyes, her fluffy, animal-like ears pressing down on her head. That laughter, I could swim in the tone of her bored voice like a dolphin in the deep blue sea. Catching salmon all day while staring at the sunset when I catch another couple about to propose to one another, jumping over the boat with all my fishy friends who love me as dearly as I have grown affectionate for Casa in those several seconds. Casa, ha, dude, I'm just standing here. Her voice was bored. Bored of me? No, of course not. She was shy like my roomie, that button boy who I would like to choke until he confesses his affections for me. I know he likes me, almost as I can tell that Casa is desperate to be my friend. She just doesn't know how to talk to me. Casa. It's Casa. Listen, I don't really feel like talking to you, you know? That was our first meeting. Turning my head over, I stepped away from her, but I reassured her as well. Emerald. Don't worry, Casa. I will always be here in case you change your mind. I would never leave you. She must have taken up on my offer, as 3 days later she sat beside me in the bleachers where I was busy trying to figure out how a human hand can connect a zipper without the use of the little connector. I tried squashing them together like a puzzle piece, but my fingers kept folding the zipper apart every time I thought I was getting somewhere. The smell of pollen was strong in my hands because they couldn't stop sweating from the struggle. Casa. I need a favor. Emerald. Oh, Casa! I said it like I usually talk to a lot of people. But you and I both know that's not the case thus far. Casa. Can you meet me outside of school just before 5? Emerald. Before 5 what? Casa. Hours, you know, the clock. I agreed, despite Casa's terrible attitude. I met her outside the gate, 1933. Scratch that. I never met her outside the gate because she never held strong on her promise. I met her exactly 5 hours after our last introduction, and she couldn't even be bothered to show up. The next day, Casa tried gaslighting me into believing I was late by bringing up complicated numbers, math problems, and equations that I solved back in middle school. She had no right to treat me like a middle schooler, and I still stayed. We met in the bathroom, and she passed me one of those nicotine sticks underneath the bathroom stall. Emerald, is that safe? Casa, sure as hell. Except this was not nicotine, tobacco, or something that was just entering your mindscapes for elevation. Or alleviation, as they say. This thing that entered my body when I injected it into my lungs had turned me into jelly noodles. I felt my head fall against the bathroom stall like it was the size of a boulder. The sketches on the wall started moving and pointing me out, trying to talk to me. But I paid them no mind. Every solid step felt more like the surface of water, as if I'd slip through the gaps in the tiles if I didn't avoid the concrete in between. Casa came out of her stall and couldn't stop laughing at me, as if my sudden reaction was just too good to pass laughter. I opened the faucet and blood came pouring out with little petals in between. The feeling of it in my fingers made it feel like acid. My screaming was only met with the wall screaming back at me. I shut my ears, but it felt like I was bashing the sides of my skull with rocks when all I did was clench my teeth and keep my fists clamped down on my ears. The feeling was horrible, almost like death was going to come climbing out of one of the toilets. So after school, Casa bought me a coffee as she couldn't stop laughing at me. Casa, consider that revenge for ditching me yesterday. Obviously, being upset was out of the question. The coffee was bitter because Casa thought that was a good excuse. The shop where she bought it had Jaiden working at the counter. I ducked my head underneath my floral hat because for some reason I brought it to school today, for some reason. I kept my face underneath my bangs to prevent the light and the sight of revenge. Jaiden would have been so mad if he saw me, since the last time I saw him I threw a rock in his face and ran away. I didn't even know if I broke his nose or not. Ha! Casa. So that cashier's pretty cute, huh? Emerald. What? Casa. Got you eyeing him from here. What was that about? Emerald. No, Casa, come on, let's get talk to him. Emerald. Casa, wait! So strong, she pulled me off my arse and ripped me into the cafe. Immediately his eyes lit up. The look in his gaze was like he was waiting for me to come back when he saw me. Casa shoved me forward and I practically fell into the counter before Jaiden grabbed my shoulders and held me upright. Jaiden. Emma, where have you been? I wanted to turn over back to Casa and shove Jaiden out of my face, but my heart wanted to convince me that this meant he didn't mean to hurt me. I couldn't even express my personal feelings through my expression. Jaiden. Please, Emma, can you wait for me after work? Just sit down on one of the stools and as soon as I'm done we can start talking. So desperate, so ragged, his breath in his chest, he was barely breathing while speaking. Jaiden. Please? Affection in his eyes, how he could fake that was remarkable. I couldn't believe it, but then, after work, you poor boy, you sure are the victim when she swung her arms around him, starting to pull his neck down. He looked like he was begging for saving grace when she forced him into her lustful begging. She had her body curled up against him, and he looked like he'd cry if I caught him. So I went to the bathroom instead. I went there and checked my facial expression, pulling my lips straight and raising my eyebrows to make sure he wouldn't know that I caught a somewhat not really best friend with her arms wrapped around him like that snake from the Garden of Eden. I couldn't let Jaiden be blamed for something he couldn't control, so I waited 15 minutes until I heard him knocking at the bathroom door. Except I opened it to find that one of the employees had knocked on my door instead. The kid that was waiting outside for me was a boy who had his bangs swept over his face like his hair was frozen in time when the wind blew through it. He had a lip stud in the middle of that lovely pecker that all humans have. His nose was covered in freckles, and he looked scared for someone who is 6 feet tall. He put his hand on his left arm's elbow and stared me down in an anxious manner. Goth kid. It's closing time. So shy, not that I cared. Jaiden was gone, and so was Casa. I thought she'd wait out her prize, but I didn't think the prize would leave with her. I turned to the goth kid, hoping he'd be able to give me an answer. Yeah, but he turned red, like I just commented on his appearance. He twisted his chin as soon as I caught his head searching my abdomen for something he'd lost. I never understood the interest in wanting to know what my belly button looked like, but at least he was ashamed of it, for what reason I will never know. But Jaiden could have controlled himself, and he refused to. Emerald. I need to get taken home. You wouldn't happen to have a car, would you? There was a bit of a blood located in his fingers until I found him crushing his arm so hard that his knuckles turned white. I guess all that blood must have went to his face because I caught his neck turning red as well. Goth kid. Oh, really? I tilted my head. Is he mentally degenerate? Does he have some kind of genetic defect? I felt bad for him because retardation doesn't give much room for being picky with what jobs you get. Emerald. Yes, I'm sure you won't mind. Goth kid. No, not at all. I mean, you need a ride. Very uncomfortable kid. But he still drove me home, holding the steering wheel. I only then realized he was still wearing those plastic or rubber gloves that one would wear in the medical or food-related fields. My head couldn't think straight while I was too focused on other things. He asked for my number last second as I stood out of his car. I bent myself down to his view and wondered, why would I give him my number? I don't even know my number. So I ended up with a marked number on the back of my hand, which was obviously his. Casa met me outside the cafe once more, and without mentioning what happened last night as well. I was satisfied to note that I wouldn't have to hear the disgusting details of everything she probably did with Jaiden's thong. Speaking of which, Jaiden was nowhere to be seen today, so it had me wondering, was he actually ashamed, or maybe it wasn't his shift? Like I cared, it wasn't my problem anyway. The goth kid took our order. Hella Bella Sella, that was awkward. He dropped the water on my lap and started grabbing napkins. He was shoving his hands close to my secret flower, and I accidentally slapped him out of trauma. His skin was so pale that my handprint was visible on his cheek. I widened my eyes like I felt the reaction, and Casa got curious. She jumped out of her seat and cornered the goth kid. He jumped out of her embrace and tried shoving her off as hard as he could, not regarding the femininity of her frame. He did shove her off without regret, and it made me respect him a little more. This today, dating sequence of me and Casa gathered at our usual booth was like a memory repeating itself over and over again, until the end of the year when Casa grew tired of me and said she needed a replacement. I was mad at her, so I sided with a girl in my homeroom who was a fellow community member of the Goth Society, which just so happens to be the same society that kicked Casa out for killing off their members by drinking their blood. I stole Casa's basement slave, which was Jaiden. The poor fool was almost dried out completely, still in the hospital to this very day, and that's why Casa felt the need to want to stick a knife in my throat. Because our communication was crappy, and the Society of Goth Kids congratulated me by piercing my ears. Now every time I lift the sides of my bangs, I get to stare at the little sunflower earrings that I chose, made out of stainless steel and the pretty texture of a golden glow on the petals. I felt validated for my actions, so don't try and convince me otherwise. As for Goth Boy, I finally gave him a call, and this was what we talked about. Emerald, I'm a monster hunter now. Isn't that cool? Do you want to be my sidekick? What are you doing right now? Why is your breathing so heavy? He stuttered for several seconds like it was some kind of song in rhythm with the lyrics consisting of the U and H letter of the alphabet. Goth Kid, sorry, what? I'm just nervous. Listen, I don't know your name yet. Emerald, really? You constantly sit outside my window in the middle of the night and you don't know my name? He almost choked on his own spit. The gag in his voice was awkward, but not as awkward as his response. Goth Kid, crap, I'm sorry, Emerald, stop playing around, you know my real name, now what's yours? Goth Kid, Mel. I paused. Weird. Emerald, Mal? Mel, melting in the pot, Mel sat and melted away because Mel could only melt in the melting melt of Mel. Mel, it's kind of cute. Emerald, no, it's not. It's weird, stupid, and awkward. Why are you acting like I'm normal? What's wrong with you? Mel, you're weird and you look like a cow. You can't even moo properly and your milk's about as sour as your outdated style. He's so sweet. Emerald, aw, did you come up with that just now or have you been thinking about it for a while? Mal put the phone down in my ear, and I was left staring at the ceiling. My eyes darted from the corner of the room to the opposite corner of the room. Emerald, meow, 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 meow. Milling the Mal Mill. Chapter 3. Eater is no monster for the eater. Later back at school, the next day, or 3 days after the fact, everything was fine. I woke up with Eater staring at that flower. It was beginning to wither at the root. I feel that lump in my throat and almost find myself choking back tears. This plant means the world to me, the very meaning of our relationship and the silence between us. With Eater's back turned to me, I can't tell if he's just as distraught as me or if he's just wondering what went wrong. Emerald, Sunflower, what's wrong? Eater. Ugh. He doesn't answer me, like most cases, but this time it's different. It's like he'd been crying, chuckling in between the sniffles. Eater. Spring allergies. He puts his hand over his face, letting his bangs fall over his fingers before making his way to the kitchen. It sounds like he's been crying before he asks me. Eater. Want some morning coffee? The sound in his voice hurts me more than it hurts him. Pulling my veins in a straight posture, the blood went sour and my face feels like it could fall off at any moment. I'm in a blind state of rage, ready to throw the only couch we have out the window and over the balcony to kill the atmosphere that choked the life out of my lovely sunflower's daydream. My cactus boy, my lovely, my darling, my sweet baby boy, my reason to live, how can they do this to me? Eater. Emerald? I blush at the sound of the nickname he gave me. Turning around, I let out a giggle. It's so fun to blush in front of him because maybe one day it'll give my feelings away. Emerald. Yes, I would love some, my sweet cactus. He turns back around, not the faintest thought left on my words before he speaks again. Eater. Do you want to have a coffee together, Emerald? We could sit at the dinner table and finally use it for once. I feel like my organs are fumbling together to choke the life out of my lungs and kill me once and for all. I must be dying. Why would he want to sit with me? I'm blushing, gushing, and choking on these feelings he left inside of me at the thought of sitting across from him drinking coffee. So beautiful and romantic and intentional. He must mean me, my sunflower cactus boy. Emerald. Yes! I slapped my mouth shut at the sound of that desperation. I sounded like an obese woman about to take a chunk out of a chocolate cake. Eater. I'm glad you're not rejecting me anymore. The tone in his voice dropped. He seemed like he was waiting for my answer, more breath-held than I was waiting for him to treat me like a lover and grab my love handles like a Ferrari's door handle and drive me down the street while rubbing his rump on my leather seats. I'm thinking dirty again. Stop that. I shake my head and approach the kitchen, hoping Eater doesn't start crying again, because it's not like I would know how to cope with that. He puts the cup down in front of me, and I stare at him with stars in my eyes. I feel like winking at him, but he looks up at me with tears drying on his lashes, his eyes barely visible through the strands of his bangs. His sniffling stops at one last whiff of the open air as he takes a seat across from me. The feeling is blazing inside of me, like my heart is holding a flamethrower, blasting my stomach with the excruciating heat, scorching my innards until my organs start to feel awkward. At the shake of his head, trying to swing his hair out of his face, I sit upright, widening my eyes. Eater, I have a little confession to make. Emerald. Really? I feel like biting my tongue. Every word out of my mouth sounds like we're in an intimate, cuddling, sensual moment together, wrapped in soft sheets with sweat in the middle, the breathlessness almost being an orgasm in itself. I need to calm down before I pass out from his beauty. I've never seen anybody as attractive, alluring, and sensual as him. He's beautiful, violently so. It feels like his hand is wrapping his fingers around my gut, crushing it and twisting it until the sappy sausages filling my abdomen start pushing my heart in as well, the blood coloring my cheeks and shading me the perfect color of his perfect choice. His beauty, remarkable beyond comparison of any other vessel on this planet. Sensuality can't tickle my tongue as much as his name. That's why I'd never say it. Eater directs his pupils into my eyes, my breath in my throat. I'm choking on oxygen and breathing through glass. I can taste the blood in my dry mouth, nothing but my feelings bleeding out of my heart. His metaphorical hand is thrusting my organs like a predator, shredding through my flesh to get to the juiciest one of all, entailing my heart like dessert. Eater, wanted to cut the flower. His eyes turn glossy, diamonds in his tears and the color of his eyes connecting with mine. His hand reaches out. I keep thinking that it's already in the abyss of my tummy. My heart turns bitter and cold as he grabs my hand. My teeth clench. I want to bite him for pulling me back into reality. The reality where he isn't mine, where he belongs to the world, a freak of nature. The same reality sucking the life out of my beautiful sunflower cactus boy. Please stop, Eater. He puts his fingers on the back of my hand, tapping and touching like he didn't just speak like an angel from the depths of hell, regaining his composure and returning to his heavenly Father. Where would I be if not for that moment of thought? Emerald. Sunflower, please! Didn't I just shout that? I find him looking at me without taking note that I spoke. He's acting as though nothing was said. Nothing was said. I'm so in love and fatally attracted that I'm hallucinating my own words. Eater. Emerald, I'm a bit shy. I don't talk to you a lot. He takes my hand. I feel tears coming to my face. I'm not sad, happy, or angry that I want to cry. I'm crying because the heat in my face is being extorted into my eyelids. He puts that hand in the palm of his hand. My breath is hitched at these cheeks, feel like they could melt off my face with that look in his eyes. Eater, I want to comfort you in your own mournings, but I don't even know if I have the strength to keep myself standing. His poetic touch, his physical touch, and now his emotional touch, the feeling of his touch all over my body, including on my brain, my heart. He owns my organs now. Will he let me lean in and touch him back? I want my hands and my fingers in his brain, his eyeballs in my hands. The tears run down my cheeks like I'm in literal mourning, but I just want to reach out and grab his throat, choke the air out of his body like he's doing to me. Will I ever really touch him? Eater. Do you understand? I've never had such close contact with anybody, apart from that traitor. He left me in the dust. He had to come back for me, but he was acting like a stupid puppet, on purpose even. I can't face him like this. I want to jump the table, lick his face, and bite those plush lips. His hands curl around my fingers like enclosing my body in his fragility. Touch me, Eater, touch me more. But you're hurting me. I stare back at him. Am I even saying anything at this point? Eater, do you want a hug? The coffee is a liar. He's not as hot as my body about to come into contact with Eater's. He's going to connect our organs, strip out humanity, and lift our souls in this embrace, covering each other like butter. He pulled me off my seat and stood me straight. My heart was popping, bursting, exploding. His hands on my abdomen, his breath on my neck, his expanded fingers, and I had my head on his shoulders. I raised my arms like I was actually planning on making this beautiful being to my comparison. No, he would never. He's nothing like me. He's better, more beautiful, extraordinarily breathless and embodied by the precious soul of something beyond my realm. I couldn't breathe. My eyes rolled backwards, my limbs grow. His arm engulfing me like a puppet. Keep me like this, and I'll die happy, lowering me onto the ground. But I wanted that coffee, not as much as I wanted those lips. I want them so badly that I pluck them right off his face and eat it in front of him, making it my own. I'm so desperate for his love that I can't even feel my own body. Why wouldn't I be that special sunflower cactus boy? Don't leave me. Don't leave me. But you can't keep touching me, or else you'll kill me. Chapter 4. Water My Cactus. Waking up, my heart is still for the moment, until I find the pot of plants sitting on the windowsill. The smell of shower gel and deodorant, the dark colors blended in with the slight greenery of a poster hanging on the wall of a greenhouse. The wall is a slight shade of gray, and the sheets are thick in his scent, making me want to start breathing heavy clumps of physical masses again. I can even feel the dry pollen on my skin starting to rub off on his sheets. I gasp as I raise them to prevent them from staining the gray colors of his blankets, with lighter shades of neon green blending in between the spikes of gray. His bedroom smells just like what I've always dreamed, the baby boy, my cactus boy, my sunflower would. Eater, you feeling any better? I turn my head, eyes wide with confusion, and the exciting feeling of spotting him in the doorway while resting underneath his thick tower of blankets. His pillow is so soft against my neck, his linen underneath his sheets feels so smooth. Emerald. Oh, Eater, What happened? Knowing full well I was overwhelmed by the feelings inside my chest, it hurts to control something so painfully expressive. Eater walks into the room and towards his desk, sitting on my right side, where it's covered in clutter of stationery, papers and sticky notes. Test scores flying off the table as he starts throwing those papers around looking for something else. He gets into the drawers and starts pulling them open before shutting them again. He keeps searching for something without letting me know. I want to try and slip out of his sheets, but maybe I don't actually want to, and maybe if I stay here long enough he'll turn to me again. I'm forced back at school in 20 minutes' time. Turns out I've been passed out for half an hour, and I woke up 15 minutes before my alarm went off. So it was just 5 minutes before the bell would ring. I wanted to scream at myself for being so stupid and letting my inner thoughts get the better of my physical body. But now I'm being entranced, or so it seems, by another male. Mal. Emerald! I turned around as he came rushing up to me, carrying something in his hands which looked to be a school lunch box. He slowed his pace before ending up in front of me, looking down at me because his height is making it impossible for him to measure up to my size. He holds it out to me and looks at me like he's handing me the very heart in his chest. Mal. I made you something for lunch. Emerald. Oh, why? Mal. 'Cause it's lunch. Why was I to take this seriously? What did he do to it? Why does he keep looking at me with so much expectation that if I rejected this lunchbox he would throw himself off a cliff and then return in the search of my empathy? Or am I overthinking this? Emerald. Sure. I take the lunchbox. His expression goes from bashful weirdo to interesting architect of emotions, when I find his eyebrows lift from the concerned frown. His cheeks light up a little, and that's the only way I'm able to tell that he still has blood in his body. After this interaction I make my way to my classes. When lunch period rolls around I was about to sit at the bleachers and smoke my usual cigarette to dispose of the poppy scent. But then I felt that twitchy feeling that I usually feel when I feel like breaking down and sobbing. The cigarette subconsciously drifted away from my lips by my own hand, as the poppy has now grown twice in its size, lowering itself to gaze down upon the 50-something students gathered around it, laying out their blankets and putting down their bags, having lunch underneath its prickly petals. The right of a giant poppy flower that's over 10 feet tall with cactus prickles across its petals would make one feel as though it is not a poppy, but in fact a type of cactus flower. I can see through the illusion it attempts to portray. But to my horror, my dear, wonderful, and beautifully sculpted absent friend is adoring the petals and tracing its roots. She sits below the flower, gathering dirt and converting the exposed roots as if the flower's demanding it from her. I find the students with fruits taking the peels and pits of those fruits and tossing them at the root of the flower. The other students are either eating at the fast food places across the street or headed for a salad that's 75% off at the supermarket a few feet away from the school's gate. I stare, hoping this isn't real. 50-something students attacked by the scent of the flower. I feel someone approaching from behind, and my attention is almost ripped off the flower like it had the tips of its prickles rupturing the surface of my skin. Union. Hey there, I noticed you sitting here all by yourself. Emerald. Union, you are student council representation. They don't put you on the council, but they pay you to advertise it. Blonde, bubbly hair with fake curls created with a curling iron. She only curls the ends of her hair, but she likes slipping a few strands over her shoulders to give it extra bounce. She's best known for using hairspray as her hobby, not just by buying it and using it, but also being a member of the staff that helps create its scent, its stiffness, and whatever else one would use to describe the horrible chemical poison that holds a woman's hair stiff for the purpose of aesthetic. Union. Wonderful. Don't forget to vote this season. We'll need all the help we can get, especially if we want a woman in charge. She hands me a flyer and a pin. This is odd. Voting season isn't until a month from now. The fact that they already started tells me they're excited to start gathering support, which wouldn't be a surprise. Hell, voting season used to be during June, but they quickly moved it to March. Now February, and they're already slipping through the cracks. The principal can't even keep his head up to try and be excited for this, as voting season is usually every year. But hey, at least I get to troll these losers into giving me free gifts while they're under the impression that I'm actually planning on voting. Union. Something wrong? You're deep in thought. It's not until she says that I realize. The flyer I'm holding, there's a new girl on the cover. She's got braided hair and a toothy grin with a smirk that belongs to a winner. In other words, she's ugly and cocky. Emerald. I don't have time for something like this. I toss the flyer out of my face and hand her back the pin before making my way towards Casa. I'm sure to light the cigarette, keeping it under my nose as I get close to the mother of all evil. Her stature is tall, her roots are envy green, and those petals, sharp red that sparks in your eyes. not to burn them, but to entice them. I stop halfway across the field, feeling the smoke caught in my throat. I'm almost shocked and horrified to find that Poppy of the Century is warning me not to get any closer. As if she cares about me. No, she doesn't. She just wants something from me. She's anything but the mother I left behind. I turn my back to Casa. I'm sorry, my dear friend. My sweet, sweet cherry chapel surprise. I can't risk getting too close to this demonic plant. I can feel our skin prickling to connect. The flower trying to convince me that I have a place inside of its stems, but she makes everybody feel like that. I'm not special. I sit just outside the entrance of the field, clicking open the lunchbox that Mal gave me. There's a small water bottle inside that fits beside the wrapped goods, which upon unwrapping has me realizing it's not your usual sandwich and drink. It's a pie with a crisscross crust just for my viewing pleasure. The smell of it is a berry kind, not a blueberry or a cherry or something like a grapefruit. It smells more like wild berries and strawberries. It's a little lukewarm, but the feeling of it is still crispy. I reach with both hands, taking a bite. The chunks inside the pie break like the crust, no roots or strings that usually peel out of the fruit, because that's what usually grows the fruit in the first place. But without it, it tastes even better. The sweetness is too much, and the feeling of warm berries and sugar slipping down my throat almost burns. I hate the taste, but I like the texture. I want the pie, but I hate the sugar. That leaves me wondering, what are those piles surrounding the poppy flower if the student only threw their peels at it? Looking closer made the flies more visible, and the realization didn't even shock me anymore every time I saw something new at the root of this demonic flower. They threw the fruits they were supposed to eat at her roots as well. She must be so happy, so blessed, but instead she's ungrateful, unhappy, bitter, and hateful. Oh, it's not enough that they throw their food at her feet just to end up rotting so the worms will clean her core and fix her leaves, but it's best that they submit themselves like the earthworm she supplies. Not even the sun can stand her, thus the large shade surrounding the flower, because the clouds are in favor of its UV, refusing to refurbish her petals, but the students gladly rub her, water her, feed her, and fuel her with their soul energy. I'm feeling too sick to my stomach to even sit here thinking about it. Instead, I uncap the bottle of water and drink at that. The flavor, lychee. It's not water, it's juice. The flavor runs down my throat, tickling the burn pains that the sugar left. It rebuilds my immune system and supplies my pollen with growth encouragement from the fruit's texture. This isn't just some juice. This is the actual sap of the fruit itself. He spent his hours crushing or blending the sap out of the lychee just for me to drink it in one quick period. Emerald. I have my own slaves, Poppy. But that wouldn't stop her from harassing me. Thinking back to Jaiden, isn't he just as desperate? Chapter 5. Texturelessly Sharp. I'm currently standing in our apartment we share. He stares back at me, not like he's scared, but like he'd been waiting for me. I find the flower had been cut off, half of it now lying on the floor. To be specific, the head of the flower sits on the floor. He places the pot of the sunflower on the floor before picking up another potted plant, which is emerald. A cactus? It's prickly. The spines on its body are outstretched towards its surroundings. White spikes that peek out from its fluffy green texture, which is thick, green and kind of fruity, I guess. I imagine that rubbing my finger across a cactus with no spines would feel like raking your hand up and down a cucumber, but I might need to stop thinking about the context of that before I turn to my cactus boy. I swear it's a good thing I'm not a boy. Eater. What do you think, Emerald? We can take care of it together. This cactus can be like our friendship, you know? You trust me, right? I look at him, breathless. How dare he doubt me, though I do sometimes wish I had him tied to a chair and have him be only mine. But I'd never. I don't know even no, I don't even know. I don't know even know if I can guarantee that he can trust me. Eater. Emerald? Emerald. Of course, Eater, you can trust me. Eater. Wow, I thought I was excited about being friends. You wanna do something? The way he looks at me when he says it is like recess, asking someone to go down the slide with you. I'm feeling slippery in my stance because everything in the surrounding area is too far away to reach. I nod my head, hoping it's an answer that would be enough to let him know I want this. I want this more than his wildest fantasies desire the outcome into reality. Eater, let's build a puzzle together! So we did. Half an hour goes by like a flick of the switch. The switch. The day feels like I'm on some kind of hallucinogenic drug. Because being in front of him, watching him focus so hard, that little frown in between his brows, and sometimes he even purses his lips, and then pouts a little as he tries to figure where the next piece goes. Half the puzzle is done in front of me, as I fumble with pieces because his beautiful face is just inches from mine, as we both focus on the picture we're building together. Just like the life we're building. I shoot myself out of my fantasies when I catch my hand trying to grab at his fingers as he delicately tries to press the piece into any familiar spots. That breath better push itself out of my lungs before I blow it back into his face with my lips on his. I jump the table just to feel that exhilaration, but there's a knock at the door which causes the goosebumps on my arms to settle down. The prickly feeling, just a distant memory. The second Eater speaks. Eater, I'll go get the emerald. No, you've been working really hard. Your flower just died, and you've been nothing but good to me. It's the least I could do. Eater, emerald? He twists his face as if I just called him some kind of name. Eater, that's not friendship. I don't bargain everything over your head like some kind of favor you owe me. How can you treat me like that? I stare, not really knowing what I said wrong. Eater, then this means nothing. Then you don't care. Then I'm still just your roommate and your rent monkey. I want to say something, but is it strange that his scowl looks like he took a bite out of a lemon? I want to pout my lips and wink at him, but I just realize that he's offended. He pushes his chair out from the dining table and heads towards the door. Before I know it, I hear them shouting at one another, and that immediate feeling of recognition kicks in at the sound of his voice. Mal, I'm here to see Emerald. Eater, she's not here. He's about to shut the door, but Mal shoves it back, stating that he heard me. I sit there hoping they'll sort it out. What was supposed to be a friendly sort of confrontational interaction turned into a violent one as Eater and Mal start throwing limbs at one another before Mal was able to raise Eater off the ground by shoving his elbow in his throat, growling at him. Mal, what's your problem? I know I'm supposed to do something, but I'm too busy thinking. I hear more slapping, screaming, and shuffling before accepting that I'm never going to be able to get out of this room if I can't settle the scores. Emerald, stop it! Mal rolled over Eater and onto his knees before jumping forward onto his feet like an android jumping to his command. I stood up from my chair and looked him in his eyes as Eater raised himself, wiping his bloody nose. I realized that Mal's eye was beginning to swell, and the inside of his lips had a bit of a blood seeping through the cracks in his kisser. Emerald, why are you two fighting? Eater, he's the devil. Mal, he hit me. I trust Mal's words since he doesn't say it with malice, and Eater sounds like he genuinely believes that Satan is standing in front of me. Mal, I'm sorry. I'll leave if that's what you want. Emerald, what are you doing here, and how do you know where I live? I kick myself as soon as the question comes out of my mouth. Am I retarded? Mal, well, I don't actually have an answer in case you would have asked me that. Is it my fault for thinking that was actually attractive? Is honesty attractive, or is the context behind his lack of dishonesty attractive? I don't know, but my confusion is only further confirmed when Eater grabs something off the shelf in an attempt to knock Mal out. I grab his head and shove it underneath my chest before getting slammed in the front of my face with a vase so hard that it shatters over my forehead. I slap backwards on the wooden floorboards with blood in my eyes and my nose feeling like the impact happened several seconds after the visual effect. The feeling of my nostrils sneering hurts even more, but my pain is short-lived when I rest my head to its side, forgetting what the color even looked like. I find myself dozed off into a space that looks more like a patch of grass than a concrete pavement where I'd naturally want to sit and smoke my second cigarette, but I barely made it halfway through my first one. Only now does it dawn upon my shallow skull that the reason it burned my throat so much to swallow that sugar was because the aftertaste of the cigarette's minty smoke was still in my mouth. I remember the drink, though. It was much smoother, much lighter, and incredibly refreshing. Poppy: so is what I could give you? I looked up, but it wasn't as tall as I wondered it would be. It was at my shoulders, and the flower itself looked softer than what it generally does in real life. Was this poppy just always this fragile, or is it hiding its true texture from me? Poppy: hiding? Clearly not. You know why I make myself to touch the sky, because it makes me visible. It proves my intentions. I provoke your inner soul and respond with malice, because the discomfort of real affection makes you uncomfortable. This is more awkward than it would have been if I were just some random student. Mind you, this bitch is supposed to be my mother, and she's talking to me like she's a genie in a bottle. Poppy: do not think of me like that. Your worth doubles the lottery earnings. You just don't see what makes you earthy. I hold out my hands, like prediction has settled its taste on letting me know that I produce pollen through my sweat glands. I stare back at the poppy. This time it's starting to powder out that very soft texture that I usually rub into my hands, sparkling it in front of me as if it's magical pixie dust. Poppy: the boys are quite funny. Either of them you like most? I decide I wouldn't want to think about that. Why would I? Boys are weird, and Cassa's gone because of them. Poppy: you still believe you two are friends. You sure do enjoy the roller coaster of stupidity, but forgot to pay the toll of ignorance. You leave your pollen on my welcome mat, and then my visitors flock to you like parasites. What is she talking about? That doesn't make sense. Poppy: you are ignoring factual entertainment. You may be my seed, but you are not my prize. You are not me, and I will never be you. We are two different planets in the same universe. That does not mean our citizens are the same. I rub my fingers, twisting them. I sprinkle the pollen as if it's raining. The flower starts to hiss. Poppy: stop that! They are mine! All mine! You have no control over what comes next. Mortality will burn and eat you alive. You are worse than what I am, you hateful wretch. Do not think that I have forgotten your promises and your desires. Lay dead, you piglet, lay dead. The screaming doesn't affect this realm whatsoever. It makes me wonder what she means, but then again I don't really care since I'm having my own trip down Memorial Lane. Rainy days, but they're not— What? Sukya! Rainy days, but they're not as rainy as the storm clouds want them to be. They're forcing the water out as best they can, but I can tell they're not getting enough oxygen to breathe. They want to explode into the abyss and become nothing more than textureless oxygen that gets pushed in and out of your body before it dissipates completely, before the trees start to pull them back in, and one day they'll come back in the form of lighter clouds that look more welcoming. Clouds that I'll mock for my personal entertainment if they take the shape of something I find funny, or something I don't find so funny. Since when did I change clothes? A black dress, a black bra underneath with a strap covering half my shoulder. The dress itself is strapless, and the skirt is made out of a purple rose's petals. I didn't know purple roses existed. I stare and watch as the purple roses are produced on the coffin of the clouds. They fill their buckets full of water, the buckets below their coffins, and everybody else holds a book open in order to read their own passages, all speaking at once, so loud. I can't even hear what's going on. Too much means nothing. Nothing means there won't be too much, but they're still one and the same. I can't breathe like this. Chapter 6. This is stupid. I don't know if you could tell by now, but I'm always getting distracted. I understand I should do something about Poppy, but what? It's not like she's done anything that's affected the natural rhythm of our society. Like the world just moves along their footsteps, meaning every step they take is just another object of life that'll achieve itself through the hands of a mortal who thinks they are in control of what they make when Poppy's constantly trying to take credit for that little bit of work. Now, the thorns are starting to turn into branches. The students are running around the flower, chanting some rhythmic junk that sounds like a cult leader's sayings. They're wearing shorts and t-shirts, and clothes are hanging off the thorns she ripped from her sides. Her stem, now covered in colorful fabrics that belong to the students of my college. The sounds of their chanting is giving me a headache. Jaiden: Emma! I flip around to see Jaiden rushing up to me with a lunchbox as well. I never handed Mal back his lunchbox. In fact, I remember waking up in my own bed. I assumed it must have been about several hours because my alarm went off for the next morning. It almost felt unnaturally quick. I slept for about 12 hours then. Jaiden, listen, I understand we're not on the same best of terms, but I still think your hair color's pretty cool. Your jean jacket, your short skirts, your shoe collection. You can make a beanbag look like a couch with how well you mix and match. Please, I don't want things to be this complicated. I made you lunch. Emerald, why? Jaiden, it's something special. Believe it or not, I've always had great toast making skills. Brown, black, marshmallow coated. I make the best toast. So I thought, cheese griller, right? What's better than a cheese on toast? Well, what if it wasn't salt? Emerald, I'm sorry, what? Jaiden leans forward, kissing my forehead before he presses his hands onto my shoulders. Jaiden, I'm proud of you, Emma. Have a wonderful day. He's handed me the lunchbox without me even noticing. The smell isn't distinct. The feeling of the lunchbox is light. Doesn't matter. Lunch came around the corner, and at this point anxiety was warning me not to go to the field all morning. So I stay at the front of the school staring as the birds start to fly over towards the flower, each of them carrying a leaf or a branch in their beaks. I feel almost ashamed that I've done nothing up until this point to prevent this from happening. Sooner rather than later, all the students are going to start swinging fists, weapons, and limbs around like some sick and twisted conga ritual. We'll all be dead in less than 30 days, and the sad part is that I predicted this the moment I saw the sprout peeking out from the dirt. But I still feel like doing nothing. I still don't feel motivated enough to encourage myself that any of these people are worth living longer. Not even myself. I don't care. I was looking forward to getting beaten to death by some psycho stalker who had an obsession with my best friend Casa, but it seems I'll be getting beaten to death by obsessed mortals who would choke on blood just to pretend that attacking me is what worshipping that stupid flower looks like. I open my lunchbox on the pavement. The paper bag wrapped around the toasted sandwich reminds me of the cafe because it has its logo sprawled across the paper. Why am I so keen on ensuring Cactus Boy remains my only love interest? I'm getting attention from directions I would have prayed for as a teenager, but now, being 20 years old makes me feel like I should know what I want by now. And sadly I do, but I don't think it wants me back as badly as I want it. Or I should say him. Unwrapping the paper exposes the marshmallow melted into the doughy bread, the feeling of the sugar crumbs crinkling underneath my fingers. Picking it up and then sliding one slice off the other reveals chocolate spread. Wait a minute, this isn't chocolate spread, this is melted chocolate. I slap the slice back on and then lean into the slices. The smell of sugar is almost nauseating, but I'm so desperate to take a bite that when I do, I feel the fluffy marshmallow mixing in with that crunch of the toast itself, and then the chocolate smearing itself over my tongue as I attempt to lick my lips, with some of the sugar particles sticking to my upper lip. I'm enjoying this so much that I start to drool over my jaw. Chewing on the sandwich has made me realize something. The store across the street is a second-hand shop that also has a pancake stall. I also realized that Jaiden never packed me anything to drink with this, but the difference between Mal's lunch and Jaiden's is that with Jaiden's lunch, I really don't want to wash this flavor out of my mouth. But with Mal's lunch, lychee sap was necessary for my body at the time. It fueled my energy and even enhanced my senses. I'm starting to rub pollen off on my sugar particles. It feels like rubbing my fingers against a cobblestone path when in reality, sugar is just like a million billion trillion tiny pebbles. I'm losing myself. I can't remember the last time I felt this attached to anything I ate. I heard someone shouting from down the street, and turning my head made me notice two boys who were tugging at each other, sometimes shoving until they made it to the gate, making their argument audible. Boy number 1, "You forgot the keys again." Boy number 2, "No, your mom forgot them." "Shut up for a second, I'm trying to think." Boy number 1, "Yeah, right, you're just like your dad. Your thinking goes about as far as your testicles." Boy number 2, "Not possible, otherwise my grades wouldn't be sinking this bad." The first one laughs as the second one seems to take his friend's laughter as a subconscious victory with a smile. Boy number 1, "What do we do now?" He seems more docile. It is docile, like a doctor, when directing the question at the one boy who looks most stressed out. Boy number 2. Honestly, I don't know. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? I feel stupid for sitting here, eating sugar bread while one of my favorite people in this whole world could be gone to its submission. Boy number 1. Fine. I'm not leaving it all on you. Let's head to Candy's and see what we can work out from there. He doesn't say anything, he just walks after his friend, letting him lead the way. Makes me wonder why they even had to stop here in the first place. School only lasts so many hours before it's time to go home again. But before I make my way there, I decide to stop by the cafe in the hopes that I would be able to catch Jaiden working his shift. And so he does, greeting me with a hand wave before clapping his hands together, wiggling his fingers mysteriously as the flour on his hands created a puff of smoke. He'll never be as funny as most friends that carry the jester's hat, but I respect him for keeping up a brave face even after getting trapped in a human canine's basement for the purpose of producing blood. That is until I noticed another familiar face working his shift, walking out the back of the kitchen with a notebook and pen in hand, rushing towards one of the tables. Mal looks at me for a split second, twisting and turning to keep his gaze on me before fully spinning to get the order on paper that the latest table demands. His entire lifeless stare lit up into the expression someone would make if they were staring up at fireworks. He looked like he could pass out from the excitement, but at least I made him seem more open-minded when he started talking to people at his table. Like he couldn't wait to get that over with and talk to me instead. But I'm not going to wait for him, so approaching the cashier, he smiles back at me, leaning his elbow on the countertop before pressing his chin down on his knuckles. A lazy but wide grin spreading. Jaiden. So, how was it? Emerald. Absolutely amazing. I couldn't help myself. I had to eat every last bit. How'd you make it taste like a marshmallow but feel like a cracker? Jaiden. Just magic, I guess. He winks at me as if it's supposed to be the smoothest response in the world. Emerald. I came back to give you your lunchbox. I put it on the countertop after moving it from my bag. Jaiden takes the lunchbox before opening it in front of me. There's my honesty, like he doesn't trust me. Just sugar and some chocolate smudges on the corners of the box. Jaiden. Ah, you were right. I feel like I just want to jump over the counter and swing my left hook in his face for treating me like he'd have a reason to confront me if I wasn't telling him the truth. He stands there looking at me, an expectation behind his eyes, like I'm supposed to know what to do with that. Mal. Hey, Jay, you can get back in the kitchen and start cooking up Table 4's order. Jaiden rolls his eyes. He's not irritated by Mal's demands, instead casually dreading the extra work. Jaiden takes the paper ripped out from the notebook and heads to the back of the cafe, whereas Mal is now standing there, demanding my affectionate glances when only one boy could get hold of that side of me. Mal's presence has become a little unnerving after noticing how sociable he's gotten since we last spoke. Mal. So? Mal turns to look at the lunchbox on the table, kicking myself for not asking Jaiden to take it with him. Mal doesn't feel offended. Instead, I think he might want me to tell him his lunch was better. How weird. 2 different boys, 2 different lunchboxes, 2 different lunches, but both of them used sugar instead of salt. Mal. Mine's better, right? I knew it. I cross my eyebrows, hoping it comes off more as confused rather than rude. Emerald. No, it was fine. I just didn't get to taste it at its peak because my dumbass ended up smoking over my lunch. Mal's expression doesn't change by an inch. Like I told him what he wanted to hear and that made him beyond happy. But there's the scary part. I didn't, nor do I plan on doing that. Emerald. Anyway, Mal, are you doing anything this afternoon? There's that mind-boggling question. Am I doing something this afternoon? Let's make something up. I can't lie about my mother because she's a soul-sucking poppy who craves to be worshipped like a goddess. I can't lie about my own health as I don't want him overdosing me on painkillers in case he does try and help me. I can't lie about life itself since I'm pretty sure he already knows about that. But I can lie about something a little more specific. Mal. I wasn't gonna ask what you think I'm gonna ask. I want to cut that damn weed out the dirt. I want to spray it with pesticide, but I need your help. Suddenly, Mel's level of swag went from being a 3 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10. I almost blushed at the thought of helping Mal kill my mother. Emerald: Of course! What do you want me to do? Mal: Meet me by the school gate at exactly 2200 hours. 2 hours before midnight. You got the time right. Emerald: 2 hours before midnight, 2200 hours. We both nod in union. I feel like gagging on my own breath. This is so exciting. See, I'm doing something about it. You just needed to wait long enough. Chapter 7. This prickling feeling feels familiar. I meet him outside the gate, not packing anything. The encounter with Eater earlier today was off, like he didn't trust me or where I was going. He looked at me like I spat in his face earlier that day. But hey, I'm not the one who started beating a visitor into the ground. He jumps the gate before me and gestures in the direction of the poppy. He's got some kind of mask on his face, and his backpack looks like he's ready for a camping trip. Something feels off about the way he's dressed, like he's going to war. But I won't question it further as I slip between the bars of the gate with the ability to bend my rib cage like a branch. Yes, all the bones in my body are made of branches instead of bones, so it's easier to fold and twist them without breaking them almost immediately. My kneecaps and some of my joints are made of rocks and pebbles, so if I need to defend myself, either my elbows or knuckles will do. My nails are made out of shells, so they crack more easily than regular nails, and they don't grow out, so painting them isn't an option since it took me 6 months to dispose of the last nail polish staining my beautiful shells. What am I talking about? I hate myself. These shells are ugly, my face looks weird, and I can't even get my hair to look like a flower. Not the same way most pollinators have the ability to decorate their hair. Before I know it, we're waiting behind the flower. The great big jolt of life has spread to be taller than the school's building. It's got petals the size of building tarps and thorns the size of actual oak tree branches. The spread and duplication of its roots leaves my breath forming a physical drain plug to prevent any air from entering. I might pass out if I get too close to that thing. I can feel my head starting to vibrate, my body reacting by growing goosebumps, and my nose getting a little runny as pollen starts to deck out my hands. Looking like a shrub of yellow flowers when I raise my fingers to my vision. I reach out to touch Mal. I need to let him know that I feel dizzy. But I pause. For what it's worth, I could send him into a dopamine rush that could give him a heart attack if I stimulate him with the thick clumps of pollen on my hands. Mal, are you ready, Emerald? Emerald. But I don't. He pulls something out of his pocket, a plastic bag that has no significance to me, until I take it in my hands and rip it open. The tear of the plastic is so loud that I'm surprised the poppy's still able to remain a deaf moron. I remove the fabric from inside and unfold it. The straps of whatever it is falls between my fingers, but the mask itself rested flat down in my hands. It feels so special to know he came prepared, as if he wants to protect me as well. That he didn't just come here to kill my mother, but to take me away from her as well. I'm starting to remember what this felt like, as if having this moment in the back of my memory, stepping on the roots of my flower, looking down at my sprout. He twists his eyebrows, but he feels empathetic towards my birth. He just can't bring himself to kill me. He lifted the axe over his shoulder, resting it on the bone, his smile giving UV that the sun couldn't provide, giving me the unnecessary encouragement to have survived my growth on a land with almost no water. He didn't leave me because he was abandoning me. He left me because he couldn't risk putting me in danger. Or so, maybe that's what I choose to believe, that there are people who care about whether or not I live. Then I just remembered Jaiden never did explain himself. Mal, put your mask on and get ready. I wrap the straps behind my ears and start sneaking forward. Mal stands up from behind the backwoods and raises himself up like he's going to be taller than the flower once he stands on his outstretched legs. I'm glad he's a little delusional, 'cause I don't want to be the only one. He removes something from his bag and unscrews the cap of it, starting to sprinkle some glowing powder, a mixture of green and yellow. My eyes light up at the sight of something able to pierce through the nearly midnight darkness. The sudden gloss in the middle of the abyss feels like a sweet kiss from reality that he brought me here for absolutely no reason because he's fully capable of doing everything himself. Until my head starts to feel like it's being grasped by claws around my scalp. My neck feels like it's jerking backwards and my feet can't even feel its solid footing anymore. This feeling is like being pulled out of your body just to realize your soul is a rag doll that still has the ability to feel pain. Pulling me into the clouds, she throws me into the ground, and the wet dirt slaps me like concrete. I raise my head, choking on the atmosphere up here. It's too thick. Poppy. The sound of something so gentle, having the ability to be so angry. It almost feels like I've lost several crucial points in my sanity jar. Poppy. The sound of her sudden whispering after shouting at me like a wet dog in her house, it feels unnaturally bliss. I want to crawl towards her, wrap my arms around her thorns, and let her slit holes in my skin. But my sudden mad thoughts are brushed off by my erratic laughter. I'm breathing in my own pollen, and it's killing me. Poppy. Where will you go? He will not need you after this. He will not look at you. He does not look after plants like us. We are the scum to him, breath-stealing leeches of life, rotten crust. He is here to eradicate you like a weed. Amaral. Like a weed? Oh no, that doesn't sound good. I shake my head, my feet getting too lazy to even stand, my knees unable to bend the right way, twisting me sideways into the dirt. It hurts to have myself be so overpowered by these paralyzing emotions. I've never felt so overjoyed and overstimulated to the point where I'd be tasting blood and sugar at the same time. Like cotton candy out of a slaughterhouse or buying meat from a candy shop. I taste my tongue for several moments, hoping that maybe sometime I'll even be able to swallow it. Poppy. Amaryllis, stand your roots. I twist my vision, my head's upside down. Now how did that happen? Everything feels too foggy to keep up with it. When I wake up, I find myself laying in the grass with my mask no longer covering my face. The smell of pesticide almost like a fog over my head. It doesn't have a specific scent, but I can feel it weighing heavy on the back of my mind. Emerald. It hurts. Mal leans over me. Something's different about the way he looks at me. He looks at me like he doesn't know me. I twist myself around, sitting on my knees. The bright green grass, the sun looming over our heads, the smaller flowers in the dirt busy wilting away from the aftermath of pesticide in their roots. The smell of a cactus, or rather the feeling of it. Mal throws his bag over his shoulder, getting up from off of his knees. Wherever he walks, the grass dies beneath his feet. He looks out at the sun with his back turned to me. I realize something at this moment, like I realize most of these things a little too late. But unfortunately this one hasn't occurred to me yet, because I didn't have to sacrifice anything to see it. Mal. That's that then. Emerald. Mal. You are... Mal. Pesticide. The feeling is almost unnatural. It wasn't the cigarette that burnt my throat. It was the feeling of something that shouldn't be inside of my body. Emerald. You could have killed me. Mal. Obviously, but I didn't. Emerald. Why'd you bother to take me home? Why did you let me walk if you knew that if our skin even pecked at one another, I would have been compost? Mal lowered his head. He was less shy and more frustrated. I keep my mouth shut, thinking he might do something we'll both regret if I start shouting at him again. My mother's poppy petals lie scattered across the field like large tarps, shriveling inch by inch because of Mal's... Emerald. How did you... I tilt my head, hoping he'd know what I meant by this. Mal. The powder was chalk dust. It reacts to anything that it can't absorb. Liquid, I guess. I basically made my own pesticide with my sweat. I looked down at my own hands, stained yellow from the heavy amounts of pollen that was bleeding out from the folds of my skin, staring back at him, aware that we both possess the ability of reproduction through our skin cells, but he produces an active poison, burning the soul out of any plant that comes into contact with him. Emerald. I almost choked on the word itself, realizing that my sunflower cactus boy was sad because of Mal's doing. That must have been why he reacted so strangely to Mal's appearance. Emerald. What does this mean? But then the question begs, how did Eater know Mal could have been responsible? For all he knows, Mal is supposed to be a stranger to him. These feelings give more nausea than head-related injuries, bringing me a queasy feeling that growls in the pit of my tummy, almost sounding like I'm hungry. But this is Mal's doing. I can feel the pesticide. Mal, it's still in your system. Stay where you are and you won't have to deal with the side effects tomorrow. I could bring you some water to help dissipate the trace. Emerald, did I fall into the pesticide? Mal, worse. You started licking it and I had to knock you out with a rock. Emerald, that's what these maroon dirt stains are. I start rubbing my palm against my head, fully aware that I've been touching this spot for several moments whilst awake, but haven't ever really absorbed the texture of it or contemplated its origin. At least now I don't have to be too concerned in case that was going to bother me later. Mal, I'll be back in a little bit. Please just stay there. I'll even get an extra pair of gloves if you don't trust me. Mal pulled the mask back over his face, and pulled down the sleeves over the cardigan he was wearing underneath that jacket. He walks towards the back gate of the school, and I am left resting on this patch of warm green grass. The sun is beautiful. The bleachers are shining, and the kisses from the UV are welcome healing rituals. Looking up at the sky, I feel the sudden urge to reach out to God to try and touch him. But he doesn't live on the same wavelength as us. Maybe one day, though. One day. Chapter 8. Putting a name to a face you can't remember is apparently a psychological mistake. I was so surprised when I found Sunflower waiting for us at the front of our apartment. Mal had wrapped his arms around my abdomen, trying to keep me from falling. Standing there, making this vicious amount of scowling eye contact, glaring each other out before I heard Eater speak for the first time since I brought Mal with me. Eater, what is he doing here? Mal, this is for Emerald, not for you. Eater, Emerald, tell him he's not welcome. I told you not to let him inside. Emerald, Sunflower, please, I don't feel so good. I let my head fall backwards onto Mal's shoulder, finding Eater's expression deepening into a poisonous glint of unreadable rage. He might just do something. Eater, fine. I'm shocked. He lets us through, stepping aside. He eyes Mal from the side as the two boys almost touch shoulders. Mal places me on the sofa, and the Cactus Boy just shuts the door behind us, walking down the hall of the apartment building. Where he's planning on going, I don't know. I'm too tired to think of what my little Sunflower would be doing out about the town. Sweetheart of the morning, we can't keep glaring at each other like that. I'm ruining our relationship, and I don't even have the strength to stand up for it. Mal stands several feet away from me. A frown so deep the river of chaos might just send some water on its way, but luckily he's the suck-up, not the sucker, so he holds it in his rusted cage like he's done for most of his life. Mal, I'm sorry, I thought it would be quicker than that. I didn't think it would get to you. I now know that Poppy was trying to talk to me. My own mother acting like she had any of that cruel authority over me. I would have poured that powder myself, even if it would have killed me. Mal is still wearing that mask over his face. I have no idea why, when considering that he's never needed to wear it before this situation. But then again, have we ever had such an intimate moment where his face was only inches from mine? Come to think of it, I never did use his number. Well, I did once, but then never again. His number was probably just an accessory to complement the permission I gave him. I reach out to him, but he just takes a step back, almost chipping a loose piece in my heart. I've not known Mal for very long, but I'm attached to him like a leech craving fresh blood. I need him to stay, but I'll have to convince him in some foreign manner that he is not the authority of this punishment, or the amount of discipline my own so-called mother slapped me with. Emerald, Mal, so special. Don't walk out that door just the second you get to. I missed seeing you. Mal, but I missed you more, Emerald. Mal finally slips the mask off his face, pinching the mask with his gloved hand. Mal, I want to stay, but what if I'm doing something to you by standing here like this? I let out a cough, a quick wheeze following afterwards, but it just falls into the abyss of the atmosphere itself, as if it never happened. Emerald, it's not you. It's Poppy. That stupid energy. That stupid ability. Emerald. It's my pollen. Now, your pollen. What do you need me to do for you? Emerald. I need a dopamine rush. A fresh basket of something I like. Something to make me excited. I've blasted my dopamine shots on the dirt when you forgot to catch me. Oh, fiddle my strings. I think I just reminded him that he's a screw-up. Emerald. I mean, my pollen! You can get me more. Do something for me that'll get my pollen back. Mal. Like what? I think for a second. It needs to be something that makes me energized, something to get my heart pumping, something fear-induced, or a drug-like substance of my bodily chemical compounds. Then it slaps me. Just thinking about it has me rubbing my fingers in the hopes that the feeling itself is enough to encourage my pollen to come back to me. This heart of mine flutters in shame, not in lust. I want to know what it feels like, but I don't want to make him do something that'll most likely kill me if this doesn't work. Emerald. Put your mask back on and come here. Mal approaches, not knowing what's behind his mask facade of my expression, prickling his interest like an intense weirdo. He stood in front of me. I grabbed at the collar of his dark gray sweatshirt. He wanted to pull away. His mask slipped over his nostrils. The folds of his lips through the fabric made his face turn red faster than throwing the whole can over my psychological canvas could ever manage. The feeling made both of us flustered, but me for a different reason. Pushing back on his waist, he removed his kisses from my pouted blessings and addressed himself in the corner of the room, jumping away as if I poisoned him. The feeling made me sneeze pollen out from my nostrils, the wonderfully extraordinary after-effects of a job well done. Mal touched his mask and pulled it down. I was about to say something, but he just turns on his heel and rushes out the door, speed-walking aggressively, leaving his bag behind. Emerald. Mal, where are you going? And that was the entire story of the poppy flower that ruined a generation. Going to school felt a little absent from my mind, absent from physicality, but it still submitted some sort of willpower and discipline that revolved around my growth. It encouraged me that life isn't just meaninglessly forced onto anybody who was unfortunate enough to accidentally find themselves on the same planet of existence as me, but instead they find themselves wandering around in the abyss of an identity crisis the moment they begin thinking that life isn't worth living. But once you find worth is when you'll realize your situation wasn't special. You just thought it was because it encapsulated your brain in a space of discomfort that made you think you were in danger, when in reality everybody keeps treating me the same. They still debate whether or not the flower was even real, whether or not the school would even admit that there was shameless and careless action taken when allowing something that large to halt the process of physical stamina and emotional deception. The flower was more powerful than the credit I gave it. As some of the kids didn't make it to school the next day, the grass started dying, and Mal only ever waved hi to the other customers, the other patrons of financial support, as I stood there wilting on the street, wondering if this situation must have been caused by my own lack of care, or my lack of discipline. You can't just touch a boy by his lips and expect the aftermath to be a casual compliment. Emerald. I'll choke on it tomorrow. I smiled directly at the sun. It doesn't burn as much as soon as you start sneezing, hissing out the pollen from my nostrils, causing the passerby student to inhale it. She grabs her knees and starts giggling hysterically. I wipe my nostrils, thinking this is just another day, until she looks up at me, grabbing my shoulders, and the eye contact is bottling up my insecurities and leaving me with those I don't feel as secure with. Imbra. Hi, Emerald, you are the flower of the decade. You raised the roof with your beauty and possess the talents of a polyester ruler. Does that mean I'm fake? I'm utterly confused right now. Imbra. My name is Imbra. I'm the school's yearbook photographer, and I just have to get a photo of you as soon as possible. Pose for me, you possessive posse queen. I do as she says and throw my arm over my head like I'm waving at the sun, leaving the other arm resting at my side. Imbra. Beautiful, extravagant, gorgeous. I need you more and more with every shot. Just another day of overstimulation for my pollen powers.